Well, so far on my fancy playlist, if you like alternative music, Jeff Buckley, Soul Asylum, REM, Fossil, you're probably thinking, oh man, this is cool. Got some great dance music about M People of Corona. And then there's Matthew Sweet on this fancy playlist in the top 10. Dr. Dre, keep their heads ringing. You might think, man, this is a cool playlist. I can't wait for the number one song on your fancy playlist, man. I bet you it's going to be something really cool. And I hate to disappoint you. I don't like to diss on records. I really don't. That's just not me. Bryan Adams has came out with some great records. Somebody was one of his good, great rock and roll records. Summer '69 was another one that he did. Even Heaven was a pretty good song. I'm not into ballads. Keep in mind, I'm not into slow records per se, particularly the mainstream ones. But have you ever really have you ever really loved a woman? I mean, come on. I don't think women are that sentimental anymore, if they ever were. I'm sure there are a few women who actually get into this, but I just, it would be the cheese, just for fun. Maybe, and I'm not the type of guy who does this. Go to a bar, go to a woman, and just say, "Hey, have you ever really loved a?" No, forget it. It is a cheesy record. It's a cheesy title. But I gotta tell you, I can't get on my soapbox about this record because the talent that went into this record was formidable. Number one, this song was from a movie. It's called Don Juan DeMarco, which starred Johnny Depp and Marlon Brando in this movie. The guy who wrote the score to this movie, his name was Michael Kamen. He's dead now, but he was a formidable musical composer back in the day. He wrote the music to this movie. And he wrote a lot of the music to this song. It was based on a Mexican folk song. And Robert Mutt Lang pitched in on this record. He co-produced it. Robert Mutt Lang. Is Lang or Lange? L-A-N. I'm just going to pronounce it as Lang. Robert Mutt Lang. He's produced albums by AC/DC, Def Leppard, Hysteria by Def Leppard, Pyromania, produced by Robert Mutt Lang, as well as Shania Twain's albums, produced by Robert Mutt Lang. Guy's a brilliant producer. Bryan Adams wrote the lyrics to this song after he watched the movie, and this song meant a lot to the three guys who wrote this. When they worked on it, they felt a certain chemistry. There was a tenderness that was emanating from this record, a glow. And I just never could get into it. I'm sorry. It's just reason why I put it at number one is because I based a lot of my playlist, and I do to some extent today, on the charts. What's on the charts? There is some imagination thrown in. I was heavily influenced by Hitline, Muzak's Hitline back in the 90s. If it wasn't for Hitline, I wouldn't have Fossil on this fancy playlist. I wouldn't have Pharaoh's I'll Show You Secrets on this fancy playlist. Fortunately, if I remember correctly, Hitline did not play the Bryan Adams record. They didn't need to. Have you ever really loved a woman? Okay. Well, anyway, the guy in charge of, now here's a story. This is a classic story. The guy who was in charge of A&M Records at the time, he listened to the record. He said, "Man, I like this record, but I don't know if it's a hit. Is this really a hit song?" And then the head of A&M, he played the record for his personal trainer. And his personal trainer was like, "Yeah, man, this is a great record." And the head of A&M says, "Well, you serious, man? Or you think this could fly?" Personal trainer says, "Yeah, man, this is a great record. It's a number one." Well, the head of A&M Records didn't know this, but his personal trainer was also friends of Michael Kamen, the guy who wrote the score to the movie, Don Juan DeMarco. It's just a classic story. But anyway, number one, Bryan Adams, Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman? And that wraps up my fantasy playlist of June the 10th, 1995. Other fantasy playlists, the next fantasy playlist I will count down. I will start on it for my second Millennium channel. It will be, gosh, what's it? Thursday morning now. It'd be Saturday morning, I think. I might take a night off, but later this week I'll start counting down fantasy playlists of July 3rd, 2011. Oh, got Taylor Swift on here. Santana featuring Daughtry. And New Boys, Wiz Khalifa, and lots of great stuff on this fantasy playlist. And the next fantasy playlist for my 80s and 90s YouTube channel, oh God, now this will bring back some memories. The week of July 4th, 1987. Janet Jackson, George Michael, Bruce Hornsby, Stephanie Mills, Robin Neville, INXS, Fleetwood Mac, Eddie Money, Mel and Kim, all on this fantasy playlist. Hopefully I'll get started on this fantasy playlist in about a month, 4 or 5 weeks from now. Maybe a little bit later than that, sometime in mid-July. Start counting down this fantasy playlist for you. Well, that's it. That's all I got to say. And I tell you what, if you watched any of these videos, thank you. Really appreciate it. Well, this is Mr. DJ signing off from counting down my fantasy playlist. It's all done now, June 10th, 1995. And I'll see you on the next countdown. Take care.